We are joined in studio by Penny Lebyane. Penny, good morning to you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Afro Worldview. First and foremost, Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day to you, to Abigail, and Happy Women's Day to all the women of South Africa who are watching the show.
Definitely. Just a few moments ago, I was listening to President Cyril Ramaphosa speaking about really the importance of this day and, you know, the strides that were made by women for us to be where we are as women. A lot of women feel as though we are not in a position right now to celebrate Women's Month because of the atrocities that we are seeing take place against our women. But what does this day mean to you?
It's a double sword because we have every right to take a moment to look back at what generations that have come before us have laid down. I mean, going back to the women in the first early days of the century, like women like Charlotte Maxeke, women of that generation, they laid a foundation for the Federation of Women to even start in the 30s and 40s. You know, around the birth of the ANC, they contributed. Women who were part of community movements in the churches, their voice was there. In trying to in emancipating our country, women of the 60s, of the 70s, women of the 70s, 1976 generation. When you think about that, women of the 80s, which amongst mothers like Lebyane Sisulu in the UDF, who were leaders of that generation. So that's the part that we have to look back at and celebrate. Women like Bertha Gowa in 1956 and her generation, and Winnie Mandela, and the rest of them, and say, they stood up, they collectively made a contribution. They stood up and said, enough is enough, things can continue where they continue. We can't be second-class citizens in our country. We have a right to vote like everyone else. But then you look at some of the things that they were standing up for. We don't want beer halls in our communities. We want a men to be part of our families. But then you have this generation, we still have challenges around substance abuse, but more than anything else, we've turned against each other. Our men seem to look like they are our enemy at the moment. So as this generation, the question is, the struggle is not over. We need to take a stand, and we need to build on those foundations that have been laid, but with an understanding of what we're facing as this current generation.
Penny, looking back and looking at the role played by all of these magnificent women that you've now mentioned, they fought obviously the struggle of apartheid. They fought against having to carry passbooks. They fought against being educated in a language that they didn't want to be educated against. Today, as you've mentioned, there's a completely different struggle. This is femicide. This is gender-based violence. I mean, we are seeing women being killed by their partners almost every week. Today, on Women's Day, we laid to rest a woman who took her own life allegedly because of rape. What do you see, or how do you see us as women standing together today? Are we doing enough? Do we need to do more? How do we move forward?
I think we're doing the best that we can under the circumstances. I mean, enough ideally will be when we don't have a young woman killing herself because she was raped. Most importantly, when we don't have a young woman being raped, being sexually violated. Children of 9, children as small as 2, it happens for different age groups. Ideally, that's when that is not happening. But now we have to collectively target all these challenges that we're facing, but constantly keep track of the things that we're winning. I think one of the setbacks is what we have won, we can't even see because of everything else that's happening. And loss of life, we can't tolerate that. So we really have to talk about issues of equality, you know, for both men and women, and with an understanding, because I think more than anything else, we need to stem from that, because the realities of what we're seeing is that there's a crisis of some sort in our nation. As empowered as we are, as much as we have a voice as women, it looks like our men have been struggling for years to come to terms with that. Then that issue needs to be addressed. So it's about equality, because we're humans first. We need to get to that. Then I'm a woman. Then you're a man. We both have rights that are based on the fact that we're human beings. We are created equally by the Creator himself. Then we can educate about the different rights and aspects and contributions and the abilities that we all have. And that starts both in our homes. We have to raise our boys differently. My son is 13 years old, and that doesn't start when they become a teenager. it starts as early as possible in how you talk to them. We also have to raise our girls to know that in a world that's pushing so much opportunities for them, what does that power mean? Okay, and how to deal with those power struggles on daily basis. And I think for a country of ours, like ours, we're a developing state that has opportunities of a first world country, but we're not a first world country, so we need to always take cognizance of where we come from. And there are rural women who don't have the voice that me and you have. So women like me and you, when we sit here, it's not about us. It's about constantly being a voice for those women who are voiceless, whether they're in the township, they're in a rural setting, that their voices are constantly amplified, and we're helping them come across so we can be able to bridge these dynamics that we're facing, because we are a dynamic and beautiful country that collectively we can be able to build.
You're right, Penny. I can't stress enough, the fact that as women we need to build each other up and always support each other. I'm looking at your T-shirt. It says hashtag I am Winnie Mandela, and it reminds me of another hashtag, and that is the hashtag Men Are Trash. It's something that we've been seeing a lot of on social media. I had another lady in studio earlier this morning, and she was talking about maybe changing that narrative and us understanding that not all men are necessarily bad, and that they are trying to push that narrative that there are good men out there who are trying to fight against femicide and gender-based violence as well. What do you make of these sort of discussions?
I think I struggle with that hashtag, but I understand the pain and the frustration that drives that. You see, we also have to come to a place where when we don't agree on things, we must respect each other's position. Like, I understand where people come there, but because of what I understand about the power of words, I don't embrace it from that point of view. But I never say people shouldn't say that. It's how they feel, and I acknowledge that. But we also need to realize that there will always be two opposing forces, but we're all trying to achieve the same goal. But the more, as you were saying, we need more voices of men, of those good men, to be accountable, to hold other men accountable. Like, I can't hold men accountable because I'm not a man. It's not my lived experience. I can only speak from what I see and what the banging between me and them represents, because I want them to hear where I'm coming from. But I want to be in a space where I can say, I want to hear what they have to say and how we can collectively navigate this situation. And it's a challenge, because when people are dying, and when women are beaten up, when children are being abused, and when we're counting the body bags every day, women are not going to say men are trash. But what are men doing to correct that? Do you understand? 100%. And these are our fathers, these are brothers, these are uncles. And for me, we have to come to a place to start that you're my brother first before you're my lover. And if we don't work out, we're compatriots. Those are the kind of things that we need to start advocating for. That we don't necessarily have to be blood sisters. But we're sisters.
Yes.
And we have to take it back to those basic values to say, collectively, we can build nations, but we all have responsibility individually. And we're going to disagree,
But hopefully the end goal is the same. And we work towards that.
We have to work towards that.
Thank you very much for joining us. Before we let you go, what is your message to women watching, women out there, as we commemorate and celebrate Women's Day 2018?
Is to remember the sacrifices of the ones who've come before. And I mean, like, in every sphere. If you're in banking, remember the women who got into banking before you.
Who paved the way.
Who paved the way.
Yes.
Because some of them pushed the door and they lost strength outside the door and never opened it. And when you get there and you open the door and it just opens, it doesn't mean that that door was always opening. And at the same time, when you're inside, don't kick the door. Leave it wide open and make space for others. Because once you do that, and this is for men and women alike, because we have a nation to build.
Leave that door wide open for others to make it easier for them. Penny, I appreciate you chatting to us this morning, and once again, Happy Women's Day.
Happy Women's Day.
We appreciate your time. Thank you very much. That was media personality Penny Lebyane.